All right, today was absolutely crazy for the CrossFit community, and some big news just came out that's gonna have massive implications for CrossFit as a whole. Today actually started with some really bad news, even more bad news coming out over Greg Glassman and CrossFit HQ that made it really seem like CrossFit was absolutely crumbling, but within the last few hours, some huge changes, huge news came out that's gonna have massive changes come through CrossFit. In my last video, I detailed how all of the controversy actually started with the email to Rocket CrossFit, then Greg Glassman's tweet, and then ultimately what a lot of people thought was a really weak apology from Greg Glassman himself. So right now, I want to go through all the news that came out today. I want to talk about the even more bad news that came out over Greg Glassman, and then these huge headlines that just came out impacting CrossFit. In the video yesterday, I detailed how over 100 CrossFit gyms had already disaffiliated from CrossFit, the company. No longer were they going to pay the $3,000 per year to be affiliated with CrossFit and use the CrossFit name, the CrossFit logo, the branding, all of that. We even saw videos of a lot of CrossFit gyms already removing CrossFit from their name, removing their banners, all of that. And as of today, over 500 CrossFit gyms all around the world had disaffiliated. So that means just out of the $3,000 per year paid by these CrossFit gyms, CrossFit, the company, lost over $1.5 million. That's not including the coaches that were lost, the $1,000 the coaches paid. That's not including Reebok cutting ties, Rogue. We're talking in the course of 36 to 48 hours, CrossFit, the company, took a huge financial loss. And a big part of that was over 500 gyms have disaffiliated from CrossFit, the company. Now, the news I'm gonna get to in just a little bit is gonna have massive implications for a lot of these gyms, and we can only speculate what's gonna happen with a lot of these gym owners. Some other really big news that came out today was that Nicole Carroll resigned, and she's got some massive tenure at CrossFit. She's been with CrossFit for over 16 years as the director of training. So she's one of the longest standing executives at CrossFit, and she resigned today. This is what Nicole Carroll said. Unfortunately, a line has been drawn to where each of us will be held accountable for words that do not represent who we have been. Our loyalties will come into conflict with our values individually and as a community. We will be subjected to defend ourselves against all manner of attacks. The pain and lived reality of the Black community has been mocked, and sincere hurt, confusion, anxiety, and hopelessness that I know many of you feel over current events has been disregarded. At a time of the greatest economic and social instability this country has seen in our lifetime, you've been put in an unconscionable position of having to choose between your livelihood and aligning with something you do not believe in, with the diminishment of what we stand for. In my greatest of conscience, I cannot stand with that. So this is huge news. This is a very tenured executive resigning because they didn't believe in what Greg Glassman was saying. And this is really showing how the state of CrossFit HQ is crumbling from the very top. If you have executives now questioning on whether they should be there or not and leaving after they've been there for that long, it shows the state of how things really are with the executives even at the top. We saw even more CrossFit athletes come out and say that as of right now, with how things are being played out with CrossFit, they're not going to compete in the CrossFit Games. That's huge news because that's these athletes' livelihood. Yes, a lot of them have sponsors, a lot of them have, social media businesses built up, but this is their livelihood. This is what they train for year round, and they were showing the unity of this community by pulling themselves from the games. Now, the big news that came out over Greg Glassman today that makes everything he said even worse was that BuzzFeed obtained a recording of a private Zoom call between Greg Glassman and several gym owners. Now, this was recorded the night before he sent that big tweet that sparked all of this controversy. Now, I know this is BuzzFeed, so take it for what it's worth, but several gym owners have come out and essentially confirmed that this Zoom call actually did happen. On this Zoom call, Greg Glassman said, "We're not mourning for George Floyd. I don't think me or any of my staff are. Can you tell me why I should mourn for him? Other than that, it's a white thing to do. Other than that, give me another reason." He said this to gym owners on the call, and he said this the night before the tweet. So what this really means too is that his apology that he came out with yesterday on Twitter, first off, it was an apology on Twitter that a lot of people thought was really weak. He didn't even show his face. This shows his true colors. If you already kind of doubted, his true colors, this really does put them into plain view. He said this before any of this controversy even really came out. So this really does make his apology mute. And in my opinion, he was just trying to save face, and his apology literally didn't even mean anything, and it was bullcrap. Now that news in itself was leaving CrossFit in a really, really bad state, not knowing if another company was gonna come in and buy CrossFit up at a really, really low price now with all of this drama, something like a Rogue, something like that, or if CrossFit was just gonna essentially dissolve and be replaced by another company, or just all these private gyms were going to essentially manage it. We've seen a ton of unity within the community, and that's been amazing, all these athletes coming together. And that's the beautiful thing about, all this drama that's come out. It's been over something that's been very, very, very difficult, but the good news over all of this is that we've seen, a massive amount of unity within the CrossFit community as a whole. We've seen gym owners and CrossFit athletes willing to put their livelihood at risk to essentially not stand with Greg Glassman, not stand with the horrible, insensitive things he said. It's shown in a massive amount of unity within the CrossFit community as a whole. Now, the huge news that potentially could save CrossFit, the brand, CrossFit, the company, is that Greg Glassman stepped down today. Greg Glassman came out on a Zoom call and he stepped down as CEO of CrossFit, and he had this to say: "I'm stepping down as CEO of CrossFit, and I have decided to retire. On Saturday, I created a rift in the CrossFit community and unintentionally hurt many of its members. Since I founded CrossFit 20 years ago, it has become the world's largest network of gyms. All are aligned in offering an elegant solution to the vexing problem of chronic disease. Creating CrossFit and supporting its affiliates and legions of professional trainers has been a labor of love. Those who know me know that my sole issue is the chronic disease epidemic. I know that CrossFit is a solution to this epidemic, and that CrossFit HQ and its staff serve as the stewards of CrossFit affiliates worldwide. I cannot let my behavior stand in the way of HQ's or affiliates' missions. They are too important to jeopardize." Now, this was huge news. This in itself right here could have potentially saved CrossFit from it absolutely crumbling, and it was crumbling. Executives were leaving, all the gyms were disaffiliating with CrossFit the company. People didn't know if it was going to get picked up by Rogue, what was going to happen. But tonight, Dave Castro just got named as new CEO of CrossFit. So, first off, this is huge news just in itself that it could be saved. But second off, we've already known that Greg Glassman has had a problem with the CrossFit Games, how the CrossFit Games have been run for a while. And now we have the CrossFit Games director, the creator of the CrossFit Games, is now the CEO of CrossFit. This could make CrossFit bigger and better than ever. It's going to really, really help the athletes, all of that. Dave Castro is named CEO, and he had this to say: "CrossFit is a community, one that is global, diverse, and tough. Every person in our community shares a common bond. We are all dedicated to a visionary, transformative approach to health and fitness. Our individual passions for that approach have forged an enduring community. Our community is hurt though. Our shared bond brings together millions of people with differing opinions, viewpoints, and experiences. Friction is inevitable. Common ground, mutual respect, and fellowship must also be inevitable. I'm honored to take on the role of CEO of CrossFit. I hope to do right by affiliates, trainers, athletes, and other members of the CrossFit community around the world and never lose sight of the mission Greg established for us all." So this right here is absolutely huge news. I know a lot of people have problems with, how Dave Castro's run the games or any of that. But this right here, in my opinion, is the greatest chance of saving CrossFit, the company. Now, there's obviously a lot of big changes and things left up in the air. First off, Reebok, how they came out and said after this year they're pulling their sponsorship from the games. We'll see if they now, they'll re-up for next year for their sponsorship. I think now with all this, it's probably safe to say that companies like Rogue, they're going to still keep supporting CrossFit if, this ends up being a smooth transition. But now we need to see, all these gyms that disaffiliated. It's going to be interesting to see if, they all go back to CrossFit, the company, they re-affiliate, or, what's going to happen with that, because there's a lot of people that essentially cut ties very publicly with CrossFit, the company. But as a whole, I do think Dave Castro being the CEO, as long as this transition is smooth and everything works out, which he's been with the company for so long now, this has huge potential to be bigger and better than ever for athletes, and potentially to make CrossFit way bigger outreach, because the games will be, potentially even better, having a better media system, all of that. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments down below. I'm gonna keep you guys posted as more and more news comes out over this, but let me know what you guys think. Is this the right move for CrossFit? Do you think CrossFit's saved? Let me know what you guys think down below. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please go ahead and smash that like button. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Leave any comments or questions down below. Be happy, be positive, be powerful, and have a great rest of your day.